So 1 Peter 3:19. We kind of have to start with 18, where it says, "For Christ died, also Christ also died for the sins once and for all, of the just and the unjust, so that he might bring us to God, having put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit, in which he also went and made proclamation to the spirits now in prison," right? And that's the NASB. Something interesting I found in the Catholic version, and again, 21, 22 are very important, probably two most important lines in 1 Peter, but that's for another day, because this is what we're talking about here. Now, the Catholic Bible says, in it he went to preach to the spirits in prison. And it gives a side note here. It says the spirits in prison, it is not clear to those who these spirits are. They may be sinners who died in the flood, or angelic powers hostile to God who have been overcome by Christ. And then it references Genesis 6:4 and Enoch 6-36, and says especially 21:6, and then 2 Enoch 7:7, and then 1-5. Okay, and in the Greek here, it's prison is basically what we think of as prison. It means cage, or a place, prison. But in the Peshitta, and Peter was probably written initially, 1 Peter was probably originally written in Greek, but we don't know. It could have been Aramaic. It says something very interesting. It says, "And he preached to the souls imprisoned in Sheol." Now, Sheol is just the place of the dead, like a dusty room where all the good and the bad people just sit around waiting. Or it can literally mean just the pit, the grave, the land of the dead. It can have both the physical connotation of the pit that you put somebody in, the grave in the ground, or the land of the dead. This is, to me, seems more like the harrowing of hell than it does purgatory. I don't even think the Catholics, in their Bible, they don't mention it as purgatory. This is, I believe, the harrowing of hell, of when Christ ascended into hell, and you see the icon of him pulling Adam and Eve out of hell, and all the righteous people, those who awaited the resurrection. As for anti-Catholic bigotry in the Eastern Orthodox Church, we're usually the defenders of and bear the brunt of anti-Catholic bigotry, and we usually stand up for Catholics, because many Catholics usually don't stand up for themselves, or some Catholics who claim to be Catholic will mock the Roman Catholic Church, or these old silly traditions, especially the post-Vatican II people. Now you'll get people like Lazar Puhalo who will blame everything on Americans, Republicans, and Roman Catholics, just so he can try to reach the Protestants. Now, there are many Orthodox that see people like Augustine as a Manichaean agent, and that Roman Catholicism, or I should say the Latin West, Rome and the Latin West, as the first Protestants, basically, and see it as basically a bureaucratic nightmare, and that there have been too many changes, and that, for one, there's images of the Father which have been banned since forever, and the Seventh Ecumenical Council bans making an image of the Father. But no, among the laity, there's no anti-Catholic bigotry. It's just many people either assume we are Jewish, sometimes Muslim, and then other times, oh, you're just Catholic. Well, yes, we are Catholic, we are Orthodox, but we're not Roman Catholic. We are the one true, holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. But there is some frustration between where the the Uniats, the Orthodox were forced by Catholic military leaders to convert, and basically they said you can keep your ways, just put a picture of the Pope on the altar. And then there was, of course, the Robber Council of Florence, where it was Mark of Ephesus that stood up, and when the people shouted, rather the turban of the Sultan than the mitre of the Pope, and executed many of the bishops that had tried to agree with this Council of Florence. But I don't think you'll find any anti-Catholic bigotry among the laity. I know a Jewish woman, a very Jewish woman who's half Ashkenazi, half Sephardim, that went to a Palestinian Antiochian Orthodox church, and they welcomed her with open arms and didn't bat an eyelash at her. The Greeks are very nationalistic, but the more welcoming would be the Orthodox Church of America, but I think the most welcoming would be the Antiochians. All right, peace to you. Thank you for your questions. And if you have any more, please ask.